But we return now to this top story, and a little after 6 o'clock this morning, a tram travelling towards the Sandilands tram stop in Croydon derailed at a junction where two points of the track meet and came off its track, falling to its side. Now, as we understand, there has been loss of life in this incident. We have no more details on that. We do understand there still remain two people trapped inside that tram, and that emergency services are working continuously, the fire brigade, the ambulance services, to try and free those two people trapped inside. It had been more people trapped earlier. They've managed to free a number of those now, but it's safe to say this is a very large-scale incident for all the emergency services. At least 70 firefighters here, so eight appliances, a large number of police and ambulance crews. So they've treated at least 50 people here at the scene. A number of people have been taken to hospital, at least 20 to nearby St George's Hospital. There's talk of walking wounded. 4 of those at St George's Hospital seriously injured. A little earlier on, we heard from the representatives of the emergency services about what they'd been dealing with this morning.
Officers from British Transport Police attended alongside colleagues from London Fire Brigade, London Ambulance Service and the Metropolitan Police. Together, we are currently working to free 2 people still trapped. A number of people have been taken to hospital with injuries, and sadly we can say that there has been some loss of life. It is too early for us to confirm numbers, but we are working hard to assess the ongoing incident and are continuing to focus on our recovery efforts. British Transport Police and the Rail Accident Investigation Branch have now commenced independent investigations into the cause of this tragic incident. A contact number will shortly be made available for concerned family and friends. In the meantime, I ask that people have patience with the emergency services as we move into the recovery phase of this operation. Please avoid the area and check TfL for any travel updates. I will now hand over to Liam Lehane from the London Ambulance Service.
We have transported over 50 patients to a number of hospitals, those being St George's and Croydon University Hospital. Most of those patients were walking wounded, but there are, however, a number of patients with some serious injuries. We will continue to work on the scene with the other emergency services during the recovery operation. I'll now hand over to Andy Rowe from the London Fire Brigade. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Deputy Assistant Commissioner Andy Rowe from the London Fire Brigade. We were called to a derailed tram incident at 0611 hours this morning, with units arriving on scene within 6 minutes of that time of call, encompassing in the end 8 frontline pumping appliances and 5 specialist rescue units with associated equipment. Crews, as you've already heard, have worked tirelessly with colleagues from the other emergency services to rescue a significant number of injured passengers throughout the course of this morning, some of whom were unfortunately trapped by the nature of the derailment. In order to release those people, we have had to undertake complex cutting and heavy lifting operations, and will continue to do so in support of our colleagues, in particular from the investigative branches and the police, in the recovery phase of this incident. We anticipate that we will have resources on scene for at least the rest of today. Thank you.
Now, obviously you've heard the warnings there, and understanding that the emergency service is still working there. That was a little over an hour ago, so we understand that the people they've been working at have now possibly been trapped inside that tram for over 6 hours. A very serious incident indeed, and people remain here, emergency services. We've had a statement from Croydon Health, who said that 31 people have been brought to the emergency department for care and treatment. They say their staff are currently triaging and caring for them, so they're asking members of the public with more minor ailments or issues to consider going to a walk-in centre or their GP while services are particularly stretched at this difficult time, and they're going to update more when they get it. There's also, of course, been The messages from politicians. Sadiq Khan says that he's in contact with emergency services and TfL, who are working extremely hard to get the situation under control and to treat those who've been injured. He said his thoughts are with those involved in the acts, and also his leader, the leader of the opposition, Jeremy Corbyn, put out a statement on Twitter earlier. He said, "Our thoughts are with the victims and the loved ones of those affected by the tram derailment in Croydon in the morning." It's safe to say this obviously has affected a huge number of people, and we're getting more information on it as we get. But just a recap, from what we understand, a tram travelling towards the Sandilands tram stop just after 6 o'clock this morning derailed for reasons we don't yet know. We understand that investigators are working now hard to try and find out exactly what happened. This is, of course, happening simultaneously to the operation to free those people and to treat the injured. And I say we also understand there has been some loss of life here this morning. As yet, with all those details, we're still waiting. But earlier, it was reported from eyewitnesses and people in the area they heard extremely loud noise in the area. They looked down and then they saw a tram had come off the tracks. Witnesses also reported seeing people on stretchers being taken away from the scene, and we heard a little earlier just what that was involving and the pressure on local services. It's also a reminder just simply that a large swathe of this area of Croydon is blocked off because of it, so there's going to be very large implications on travel to and from the area. If you are travelling in the area, do check before you go. The other issue, of course, is there is an emergency centre. It was at St Mildred's Church nearby, but they are setting up an emergency centre at a place called Bernard Wetherall House, which is on Mint Walk in Croydon. So anyone who's watching who's affected by this and wants to find out more and find out and check up on the loved ones, they can do that. The British Transport Police have also said they're in the process of setting up an emergency number that concerned relatives and friends can contact. But for the meantime, they suggest that if you do want to find out about anyone who could have been implicated or could have been travelling on that tram this morning, they're advising people to contact 101, the non-emergency police service, 101. That's the British Transport Police asking for people to say this is how they can find out more and find out if someone has, of course, been affected by this. But for the time being, we're seeing a very serious, large scale. You might be able to see behind me now fire crews coming out. They've been working there now for a number of hours. A little earlier on, we saw food and drink being brought to the emergency workers who have been on the scene for 6 hours now in an attempt to try and free those people. We'll bring you the updates, of course, when we have those. But for the time being, keep watching London Live News. We'll bring you the latest on this tram derailment in Croydon as we have it.
Luke Blackall there for us in Croydon. As Luke mentioned, we'll continue to bring you regular updates on the situation from there. Stay with us.
Welcome back to London Live News, and we return to our top story this lunchtime. And several people have died and over 50 people are injured after a tram derailed in Croydon in the early hours of this morning. Now, from what we understand, a tram was travelling towards the Sandilands tram stop, a little way away from the East Croydon Transit hub, when it derailed at a fork in the junction of the tracks. It tipped onto its side and caused a huge amount of issues there. The emergency services were called. There have been up to 70 firefighters and 8 fire engines here trying to deal with it. We understand there are still 2 people trapped inside one of those carriages. That would make it over 6 hours still trapped in there. Emergency service is working for over 6 hours just trying to get to them. Of course, the ambulance service have been treating a number of people. They said they treated about 50 people. Apologies if you heard any bad language in that just now. Over 50 people have been treated. Serious injuries have taken place as well. St George's Hospital taking in a number of people. A little earlier on, we heard from the heads of the emergency services who are working here on the scene.
Officers from British Transport Police attended alongside colleagues from London Fire Brigade, London Ambulance Service and the Metropolitan Police. Together, we are currently working to free 2 people still trapped. A number of people have been taken to hospital with injuries, and sadly we can say that there has been some loss of life. It is too early for us to confirm numbers, but we are working hard to assess the ongoing incident and are continuing to focus on our recovery efforts. British Transport Police and the Rail Accident Investigation Branch have now commenced independent investigations into the cause of this tragic incident. A contact number will shortly be made available for concerned family and friends. In the meantime, I ask that people have patience with the emergency services as we move into the recovery phase of this operation. Please avoid the area and check TfL for any travel updates. I will now hand over to Liam Lehane from the London Ambulance Service.
We have transported over 50 patients to a number of hospitals, those being St George's and Croydon University Hospital. Most of those patients were walking wounded, but there are, however, a number of patients with some serious injuries. We will continue to work on the scene with the other emergency services during the recovery operation. I'll now hand over to Andy Rowe from the London Fire Service. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Deputy Assistant Commissioner Andy Rowe from the London Fire Brigade. We were called to a derailed tram incident at 06:11 hours this morning, with units arriving on scene within 6 minutes of that time of call, encompassing in the end 8 frontline pumping appliances and 5 specialist rescue units with associated equipment. Crews, as you've already heard, have worked tirelessly with colleagues from the other emergency services to rescue a significant number of injured passengers throughout the course of this morning, some of whom were unfortunately trapped by the nature of the derailment. In order to release those people, we have had to undertake complex cutting and heavy lifting operations and will continue to do so in support of our colleagues, in particular from the investigative branches and the police in the recovery phase of this incident. We anticipate that we will have resources on scene for at least the rest of today. Thank you.
Now, of course, trams are a big feature of the Croydon landscape, and accidents such as this are extremely unusual. We understand it's the first accident involving a tram in the UK that involved fatalities since 1959, and such an incident has drawn lots of sympathy from politicians across the spectrum. We've got a statement from Sadiq Khan, who said he's been liaising with the emergency services and TfL over this issue all morning. He said a number of people have been taken to hospital with injuries sustained in the incident, and sadly there's been some loss of life. My thoughts and prayers are with the friends and family of those who have lost their lives today and everyone involved in this tragic incident. Now, earlier you would have heard the British Transport Police Assistant Chief Constable Robin Smith there saying they were setting up a line. We now do have a line for people to contact if they want. They can contact the Casualty Bureau on this number, 0800 056 0154. I'll say that one more time. That's 0800 056 0154. And there's also an emergency centre being set up closer to the middle of Croydon where people can go to find out if any of their loved ones or friends were involved in this. My colleague Luke Garrett is over there now, and he can tell us more about what's going on there.
Yes, thank you, Luke. Well, we are just a stone's throw away from the Croydon Town Council building. Behind me is the Bernard Wetherall Centre, which has been set up as an emergency crisis centre for any friends and family who wish to know any information about what's going on. There is, of course, that emergency line, with the number of which is 0800 056 0154. But here is for people who live in Croydon who might be wanting to know information face-to-face with some of the trained professionals here. There are emergency services at the scene scene here. As you can see, there's a British Red Cross van behind me that will be giving advice and information to anyone who might be affected by this incident this morning. We have just had a press briefing by some people from Croydon Town Centre. They say that they are hoping that the line will be used instead of 101. Originally, people were urged to call 101, but now that has become a dedicated line instead. We have also heard this morning that 2 crisis centres were set up. This was one of them. There was also one set up at the St Mildred's Church just nearby. That was set up as sort of a triage centre for those with minor injuries. Of course, we have heard that dozens of people have been sent to hospital, varying hospitals in the South London area. That St Mildred's Church centre has since been shut down since most people have been attending hospital instead. This centre will remain open for any friends and family who wish to attend and get any information, but once again I'll repeat that number: 0800 056 0154. Now, this is not an area where the MP or the Mayor will be attending today. It was thought that they might come and attend, but they have said that they do not want to get in the way of any work that's been going on here with any of the family or friends of anybody affected by this derailment this morning. Instead, I've just heard that the Mayor might be heading to the scene and will be giving a statement there, possibly with the local MP.
OK, Luke Garrett there, and my colleague Luke Blackall as well, both in Croydon, giving us the very latest on what's going on following that tragic accident, or incident certainly this morning, involving the tram. We will be going back to Croydon throughout the programme, giving you the very latest. Let's